Hello everyone. In this video, we will work with integers and absolute value. Unit 1, Topic 1. Before we get started, I have this page showing to remind everyone that we are going to work with our workbook and we will work with page number 9, 10, 11, 12 on this workbook. I hope everyone has already downloaded a copy and have them ready for the video lessons. Alright, on page number 9, all the topics supposed to be in Unit 1 are listed here, and we will get started with integer and absolute values. So the definition of integers are pretty simple. Integers basically are whole number, and they have the sign in front of them, like negative 5, negative 4, negative 2, negative 1. And positive numbers are the numbers on the right of the number 0. As you move further to the right, the numbers are getting bigger. These are the positive number. Positive number can be presented as a plus sign in front of this number, or you don't have to write the plus sign in front of this number, and they are called positive number. Negative numbers are the number on the left side of the number 0. As you move further away from the number 0, the numbers are getting smaller and smaller. Alright, okay. So to work with operation of negative and positive numbers, it's actually pretty simple. Any scientific calculator will do the job just fine. However, what you need to remember is that your calculator should have the key where it indicates that it's a negative sign. So let me zoom this a bit bigger for everyone to see right here. So this key representing a negative number, and the key on this side of the calculator where I show my pointer to you, these are the subtraction sign. So we have to distinguish the difference between the subtraction as the operation and the negative sign to show the negative number or the characteristic of your number, which is a negative integer. Okay, so on this side you should have multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. These are the 4 basic operations in mathematics. And if you have to add, subtract, multiply, and divide integers, we need to work with this key right here to show that we want to present it as a negative number. Okay, so let's go over this example. For example 1, I have negative of negative 9. And then I add that with a negative 5. I subtract that with negative 6, and I add that with 7. So you can use calculator to get to the answer 17. The important key to remember is this key right here. This one represents a negative number. So if you want to present your number as negative, you make sure that you use this key. If you want to subtract the number, you are using this key. So in this case, I want to show everyone that this is a subtraction sign right here. So this one is a subtraction. So it is the operation. So you need to use that key. And this key right here is the negative sign. So when it's representing a negative sign of the number, then you need to try to find a symbol that represents it as a negative. So for this Casio FX991FS, the negative sign is up here, but hopefully in any scientific calculator that you chose to use, it should have this feature as well. Alright, so let's move on to example number 2. Here is number negative 15. So again, this negative sign, you will have to use the negative key on your calculator and use the operation as division divided by 3. You should have negative 5. And again, I think it's very simple to work with all of this example, and make sure that you are using the negative sign for this -5, negative sign for this -6. Okay, so do not use a subtraction sign because the calculator may tell you that it is an error. So put in -5, okay, in the bracket, multiply with -6, and avoiding this subtraction sign as thinking it as a negative sign. Okay, so if you want to present a negative number, make sure that you use this key right here. So I would like everyone to play around with your calculator, work with example 1, example 2, example 3 to make sure that you get the result listed here for you. Alright, so let's move on to the next topic, which is the absolute values. Excuse me. So for absolute value, what we have in this particular lesson is I give everyone a definition of absolute values. The notation for absolute values represented by the two line, excuse me. So if I have the number represented as x, and I write a short line like that, a short line beside this number, then it is the absolute values. So if you take a look at your calculator, the absolute values is not anywhere on any key on your calculators. But the operation and to work with absolute values is actually very simple. So let's work with number 6. Okay, so if I have absolute value of 6, it is equal to 6 if 6 is a positive number. So if -6 in between these absolute values right here, then I still have the result as 6. Okay, so then what is the definition of absolute values? So let's go back to our number line. Okay, number line on the integer that we have. Okay, so what I have here is that I want to present the distance from the 0. Okay, so let's say I have 5. Okay, so absolute value of 5. I want to present the distance 5 away from the 0. So if I have -5 in the absolute values is also equal to 5. So what I want to say is I want to present just the magnitude. So I present the distance from 0 to -5. Okay. So basically, if you have absolute value of a negative number, you can change that into a positive values. Alright, so let's go back to the page where we have the definition. Okay, so if I have absolute values of 6 as positive, so that is exactly equal to 6. If I have absolute value of -6, you can take the absolute value away and present it as 6. Okay, so let's work with example 3. So for number 8, okay, notice that I have this sign before the 8 and after the 8. So I say that this is the absolute value of 8. Absolute value of 8 is equal to positive 8, right? So that's why I turn this into a normal bracket, put that as positive 8, or I can just write it as 8. The reason I present it like this, because it's related to the next example when I work with a negative in front of the absolute values. So for this example, what I have is I have negative, then absolute value of 6. So what you need to do is you need to take away this negative sign. I mean, not the negative sign. You take away the absolute notation first. So you turn this into a normal bracket of positive 6. Okay, still keep the negative at the front. Now you have negative of positive 6. So when you have negative and a positive 6, it turns into a -6. Alright, okay. So basically, we are working with evaluate the absolute values, right? Evaluate the absolute values is the another basic operation in algebra that we need to learn. Um, and it's as simple as take away the absolute value sign, replace it with a normal brackets, and if it's a positive, then it's a positive. It's a negative, turn that into a positive. Okay, so that is the case in example number C. So I have absolute value of negative 17. So like I said, you take away the absolute notation, turn that into a normal bracket. This turn into positive 18. I mean 17. Okay. And then you can just write it as positive 17. Alright, okay. So I think I'm kind of jumping ahead, reading the 18 here, and then I make that into 18 for no reason. Okay, sorry about that. So let's continue with the next example, D. This time we work with negative 18. Okay, so let's write this one down. Okay, so I have negative of absolute value of negative 18. So I would like everyone to do this step by step. So first of all, notice the absolute value notation. Like I said, you turn this into a normal bracket. After you take the absolute value away, you turn this into a normal bracket. It means inside the bracket, you must put positive 18. Alright? Okay. Then, according to the definition of integers, negative and positive, in the way that you time negative with a positive, it turns into a negative 18. So if you are puzzled about this, I would like everyone just to key this into your calculator and it will give you the answer as negative 18. Okay? Key this into the calculator with this bracket because you don't have the absolute value bracket on your calculator. Okay, so let's go over example 3e. In this example 3e, we have absolute values right there and at the end, and inside this absolute value notation we have an operations. So you have negative 7 subtract 12. So what you need to do is you need to calculate this result first. Okay, you need to calculate this result. It turned into negative 19, and then after you just have a single value inside this absolute value notation, then you can take that absolute value notation away and turn that into a positive number. In this case, it turns into positive 19. Okay, so to make sure that you have an operation inside an absolute value notation, then what you need to do is you need to work with that operation first, turn that into a single values, then after that you can take the absolute value notation away. So in this case I have negative 15 plus negative 2. Okay, so negative 15 plus negative 2. What I will do is, you see, positive, negative, make it a negative 2. Or you can use calculator. On your calculator, you key in negative 15 plus negative 2. It will give you negative 17. After I get just one single value inside this absolute values, then I can take the absolute value away, turn that into a positive value here, turn this into a normal bracket. Now I can see that negative times positive will make this a negative number. So it's pretty simple, but it's easy to make a mistake. Okay, so make sure that we remember this instruction. So if you have the absolute values, and you have to evaluate the absolute values, inside the absolute value notation, you have an expression, and an operation, then you need to perform the operation first, turn that into a single values, and then after that you can apply definition of absolute value to take the absolute value away. Alright, okay. So let's start with the practice. So in this video, I try to keep the video within 15 and 20 minutes. So I will quickly go over just a few questions on here, but you will find the full solution posted in Blackboard. Okay, so I quickly choose a few questions on here to go over. So I think I probably be able to quickly go over number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So number 2, absolute value of 3 is positive, so it's just equal to 3. Right? Okay. So absolute value of a negative 4, it turns into a positive 4. So all you have to do is just take the absolute value away, turn them into all positive values. So but notice this, in this case you have a negative in front of the absolute values. So again, absolute values of 7 is just positive 7. Now negative times the positive, we turn that into a negative 7. Okay, again, I will turn this into a positive 9 inside the brackets, right? Okay, so now I have negative times positive will make a negative, so the answer is negative 9. For number 6, we make sure that we calculate this operation first. So I have negative, leave the absolute value there, use your calculator and take negative 6 plus 5. We have a negative 1 as the answer. Now I do step by step. I would take the absolute values away. I mean the absolute notations away. Turn it into a positive 1. Turn that into a normal bracket. Then negative times positive will make it a negative 1 as the answer. Alright. Okay. So for these questions, again, I will calculate that. I will have that absolute value of 7 because 9 minus 2 is 7. So now leave that negative in front of absolute value. Turn this into a normal bracket. Is a positive 7. So negative times positive will make it a negative 7. Alright. Okay, for these questions again, I will calculate this operation first. Leave that negative for now. Still leave the absolute values. And use your calculator. Negative 9 minus 12 will give you negative 21. Your next step is to take away the absolute value notation. Turn negative 21 into a positive 21. Now you see that negative times the positive will give you a negative, and you will have the answer as negative 21. Alright, thank you.